Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pro Football Historian channel. I'm your host, Flynn Given. And today, we're going to be discussing the Indianapolis Colts 2021 season. Obviously, they coming off a playoff appearance in 2020 with Phil Rivers at quarterback, and they fell short of the playoffs this year in 2021 with Carson Wentz at quarterback. It's a big story. This team had a slow start against a very tough schedule. Got very hot, and then at the very end, just blew their chance against two teams. I think they could have, especially the last one, could have easily won. Played a playoff team, second to last week. Still thought they should have won that game, but didn't. And they were home as well against the Raiders. Let's go to week one, though. Did talk about that in the Seattle video. Going in the year, you're like, Seattle's home. Wentz is injured, coming off the ankle injuries. Or maybe just the one ankle at least. Either way, Seattle started pretty hot. They tore apart a pretty good Colts defense. Russell Wilson threw 4 touchdowns, only 5 incompletions. And Chris Carson even had a decent day. Wasn't a good day all around. And Wentz didn't turn it over besides the fumble, but ground game didn't get going yet. They started to get hot eventually, and it just from there it was a great season for Jonathan Taylor. For the Rams team, obviously they went to the Super Bowl. On paper, you're saying the Rams are probably the better team, and they won the game. Colts had the chances. Taylor didn't really get it going. They didn't know what they were offensively yet at this point, especially didn't really have much practice, with this whole starting lineup. The injuries across the board on the offensive side, and defensively it took a couple weeks, but they started getting really going. They played the Titans, division rival. They lost 16-25 to them. Once it allows me to get in there. But no, again, just not much going offensively. Taylor didn't really give the ball much. He actually was doing decent. And they slowed down Henry, but the Titans, force-fed him the ball, basically. And Tannehill, 3 touchdowns, did have 2 interceptions. And just, again, defense was all right. Offense, they just didn't do much. Then they played Miami, team that was really struggling at this point. Didn't have a lot of success early on in the year. They win 27-17 against the Miami Dolphins. Wentz did pretty well. They ran the ball good. Marlon Mack didn't really use a lot this year, but they gave him 10 times in this game. Brissett played against his former team in the Colts, but they just couldn't get anything in the ground, even though it was okay passing the ball. Colts, both sides of the ball played fairly well in this game against, again, a team that was 1-3. Well, 1-2 going into the game. They go to play overtime game against the Ravens. This game, they definitely had their chance. They completely blew it. They had the kicker injury, which also hurt them late in the game. And that's all I really have to say. They had their chance. They started off good, 10-3 at half. And then they have a 22-9 lead. Get the field goal, and then just see. Mark Andrews touchdown. Marquise Brown touchdown in overtime. It's unfortunate that, Blankenship got hurt in this game. It really hurt him. They had a block kick in this game. And Wentz played well, and they didn't really run the ball. They had some decent rushing yard, but Taylor had a long reception. He had 116 yards receiving, 76 yards early in the game. But defense couldn't stop him late in the game. Offense just couldn't get a drive going to seal this game. Puts them 1-4. This is where the season started turning around. They played Texans, team they just absolutely destroyed, 31-3. I think that Tyrod was the starter in this game. Whenever it will allow me to click this game. And Paris Campbell, one of his big plays of the year, set 51-yard touchdown. Again, they didn't have much receiver. This team didn't have much receiver help. And going into this NFL draft in a couple weeks, they did not have much receiver help. And they lose Zach Pascal, really one of their main targets. Still Michael Pittman, T.Y. Hilton, who knows what will happen. Paris Campbell's always been hurt. So, again, we'll see going into draft and maybe even free agency. Obviously, the big news is, a trade for Matt Ryan. And they're keeping a lot of their pieces, so it's like a new quarterback, but the rest of the team pretty much staying intact. Really good built team. They have a lot of great players, most Pro Bowlers in the league, which people don't really think of or remember, even though they didn't make the playoffs. They had 8 or so Pro Bowlers, whatever it was. This game they played against Davis Mills, 2 interceptions. Colts did give up some rushing yards, but again, 10 yards to carry over for Jonathan Taylor, 2 touchdowns. And once it's kind of where we got to the season, they just started running the ball a lot, focusing on that, and they give Carson Wentz a lot of shots or chances to throw the ball. And there's reasons for that, and reasons, maybe could have let him, actually play quarterback, because it's hard when you're quarterback and you're just a run-heavy team, good defense. Just to all of a sudden ask the quarterback to start throwing the ball when you need them, it's tough. But that's what this team played. Then they played another team that had a poor start of the season, but they started to get hot. Both these teams, at this point of the season, they were both trying to get hot. Colts obviously were the hotter team at this point. This was a sloppy game, rainy game. I don't know if there's a lot you can take away from this. I know it was a little odd play, which I think was ruled a fumble by Wentz. He shoveled or slipped out of his hand. Garoppolo played poorly. Both teams ran the ball well, but again, hard to take a lot from how the weather played a factor in that game. Then they played the Titans. As most people remember, the ending, the Wentz really bad pick six he threw. But it did give him a chance because it was tied at that point. Instead of a safety, it did give him the ball back. And, they made the play, scoring a touchdown with 22 seconds. Wentz leading a good drive. He did get a great play thrown to Pittman, I think, down the middle. But they ultimately lose in overtime. Basically putting the division out of reach already halfway through the season. You're down 3 games. You already lost 2 times to the Titans. So you're basically 4 games back with 9 to play. So at this point, it's just like, can the Colts at least get the playoffs? They'll be a dangerous team. And they had this Thursday game, I believe it was, against the Jets. It wasn't even this close. Colts dominated. They kind of allowed the Jets back in it. Again, Mike White started the game. He got hurt. And Josh Johnson threw 3 touchdowns, even though that was garbage time. I mean, it did come into effect. It was a game a little bit near the end, but again, Taylor, Himes all did really well. Wentz even played well. And they destroyed the Jets. Then they played the Jags, another bad team, but for whatever reason, in the last few years, they just struggled against the Jags. They did win this game, though. Barely, you could say. Either way, Wentz didn't do a lot. Ran the ball pretty well. And defensively, played pretty well. They just allowed 17 points, even though it's against a poor offense. Probably Bills, probably the best win of the year. Kill or destroy, however you want to put it. They completely dominated this game against Buffalo. Well, put Buffalo in a spot where they lose a couple games in a row or in a group of 3 out of 4, whatever it was. And to lose like this, it really put the Bills on edge. Are they going to get to the playoffs? They ultimately did eventually, pull down the stretch, winning the last 3, I believe. But again, Bills' weakness was the run defense. Obviously, they improved that this offseason, but you see Josh Allen, the 2 interceptions. Eventually just put Mr. Trubisky. It was that bad. 4 touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor. They also had a receiving one, 5 total touchdowns. Wentz, they didn't really ask to throw. They didn't need him to. And they win that game. Then they play the Bucs. Had their chances, and they had a lead. I think they went for a 4th down and just gave the Bucs the ball back with half the field or something. Can't really remember, but they jump-started the Bucs, and then they just went on a roll. And then they couldn't stop the Bucs on the last drive, but then the Colts get a great kick return, which put them in position to throw it in the end zone. A couple of plays. Ultimately, I think Wentz got picked off, whatever, and they didn't win the game. This is the first time Jonathan Taylor didn't get 100 yards in a while, and it might have been one of the last times, if ever, in the rest of the season they even got shut down to under 100, even though 80 is pretty good. I thought they could have even ran the ball more. They did pretty well against that Bucs run defense. And they played the Texans and shut them out, so they didn't give up much to the Texans in the 2 games they played. Mills played and Tyrod Taylor both really struggled. I think Taylor was starting through a really ugly pick coming off the injury. And Wentz did all right, and they just ran the ball again. A lot of guys getting carries this game. Had a late bye week. Play New England Thursday Night Football. Controlled the first half of this game. And then a lot of the New England in the game went through a really ugly pick. When he wasn't really, he only had 5 completions, I think, in this game. Yeah, 5 for 12. Really didn't ask for much. And then those pass plays, he didn't play well. And ultimately, a long 67-yard touchdown then ended the game. And the 2 picks, Mac Jones throw weren't good either. But Mac Jones, rallying them back, give him credit. But wasn't enough in this game. They play Arizona on a Saturday game. Both were Saturday. Sorry, it wasn't Thursday. I don't know why I said that. Both were Saturday games. This Saturday game, Cardinals, losing streak, and they continue to lose. Again, Wentz, I thought, played fairly well, and even though they didn't have they won a long run early in the game, but not much after that. And Cardinals couldn't do much. I know they very slow start of the half. Got some stuff going, but it wasn't enough. Colts win. And then, surprisingly, he wouldn't win a game for the rest of the year because they would lose to the Raiders. Somewhat close game, but I thought the Raiders kind of dominated this game. Look at the stats, but even though Carr didn't play, it was somewhat dumb interceptions, and the run game wasn't great. There's not much going through the air, and I don't know, they just didn't have the ball much. The Raiders had the ball a lot. They didn't have any big plays necessarily other than a 42-yard pass, which I think went to Renfro, but let me check. Renfro to 24. So 42 is actually Zay Jones. But actually 120 yards in this game. So lose a close one at home, field goal late seconds, last seconds of the game. And then they play Jacksonville. People remember this game, and rightly so, because playing Jacksonville, I know you haven't won at home or on the road in Jacksonville in many, many years. Really early Andrew Luck years. And, they lose to this team, which this team has, 5 wins in the last 2 years, and 2 of them were home against the Colts, and just 3 points for 3 quarters. I know went through a pick. He also had a fumble. And he got sacked 6 times. The run game wasn't great. He's under 100 yards, Taylor. And just, defense didn't play that well either. Wasn't a ton of points he gave up, but neither side played well when they needed to. And the offense especially let them down. When's the stats, though, through the year? Even Taylor obviously had a great year. And Marlon Mack, who's now a Texan, only had 101 yards. But again, did some trades. They got Trey Unique Ngakwe. Well, they traded for him. Help. They got, and that's their addition. And they improved most across the board mostly. They traded Rocky just in the way, but got face on in there. Yeah, and then where's the passing stats? So Wentz pretty much played every down this year. Easton threw 5 passes, but one was an interception. But Wentz stat wise pretty good. Push percentage you wish was up. But they didn't have great receivers. Offensive line was banged up. I don't put a lot of blame on Wentz. I view him as top 20 quarterback, but some people really, it's like Baker Mayfield, just people on him. Was the stat? I'm not even saying just because of the stats, but for what he was in the situation, how the season started, and the ankle injuries and everything, coming off the disappointing year in Philly, year before, thought he played fairly well. Obviously, now he's the Washington quarterback, so Colts are moving on, going to Matt Ryan, which is a slight improvement. Don't get me wrong there. So the outlook, this team, no first round pick. Don't have a lot of picks really, but gonna have to try to build this team, especially the receiving core. It's gonna be a similar team, and the AFC's really got better, so they got a chance, but division's gonna be tough because Tennessee. I think people unrate Tennessee. They were number 1 seed, and they had Henry out for half the year, and they're not really downgraded in any area on the defense. Might even get better across the board. They didn't even have Holy Jones much. I mean, he played 10 games, but he didn't do much on the field, and when he was injured in those games too, and was taken out of those games, some of those games. So Robert Woods on that team, it's gonna make the Colts very tough to win the division for a second year in a row. If not, you can even say third year in a row. So let's move on to the draft. Again, don't have a first round pick. He went to Philly, now it's to New Orleans. So we'll see that, maybe they need some secondary help. They need receiver help. Jack Doyle retired, so maybe they can improve. I mean, they got Mo Alley Cox, so that's not really a huge need. They can help the offensive line a little bit because of the injuries and some departures and free agency. But other than that, it's a pretty good team, pretty good squad. And I expect them to be in the playoff race coming to next year. Again, thanks for watching. Enjoy. We'll hopefully have another video this week. And let me just check, but that will be on the Chargers. So we should have the Chargers next week, this week, and then go in New Orleans and Philadelphia. And we'll go from there. We might not do the playoff teams. Maybe I'll make a video, just discuss them all quickly before the draft. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.